I've got a mini rant all about the brand new 2020 Dietary Guidelines for Americans, and it's Ask Me Anything here today on Jimmy Rants. JimmyRants.com is the website, and as always, you can engage live in the content. Come follow me right here on my Instagram feed. We are Jimmy Rants. Go look up the username Jimmy Rants on Instagram, and you will find the show. We are here Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern Time, so thank you so much for being here. We're also simulcasting over here on Twitch. Thank you guys. I think I have the most people on Twitch I've ever had before, so thank you guys for being here today. And thank you to my Facebook followers for being here as well. Unfortunately, I tried about 6 times to get my YouTube feed on my tried and true laptop. This is usually what I record the live feed on for the YouTube channel, and it did not want to connect today. So I don't know what happened to the feed there, but hopefully this is why I do it in multiple places, so people can pop over here to the Instagram, to the Twitch, to the Facebook. And I'm kind of disappointed they're not here because I have something I want to talk about that's directly related to YouTube. So hopefully they watch the replay later. But if you do miss the live, you can watch it on the replay right here on the Jimmy Rants Instagram page. Just pop on over. As soon as this is over, it's usually up within a few minutes on the IGTV there. If you also want to watch it on the Twitch feed, they do save the videos here as well. And then it's also at YouTube if you want to go check it out. So after the show's over, I upload this feed over to YouTube, and then it's up there for people to watch. And then finally, you can also watch everything over at the official website, JimmyRants.com. That's where all the past episodes are found. Okay, you guys, happy Friday. And as you know, Friday is when we do my segment that I call Ask Me Anything. This is literally your opportunity to ask me whatever you want. It doesn't matter what question you want to ask me. Everything is fair game. So we will get to those here in just a moment. I've got so much at the beginning here I want to talk about. First, I've gotten several new books. You guys want to see some new books that are out in the keto kind of health space. I always try to keep you on the cutting edge, and a lot of these people I'm actually going to be conducting interviews with. And so here is a book called Eat Smarter. So this is a new book from my friend Sean Stevenson. His book Sleep Smarter is one of the best-selling sleep books out there, but this is his new one. It's called Eat Smarter, and I'll be interviewing him all about this book very soon. That just came in. I also have the brand new book from Gary Taubes of Good Calories, Bad Calories. He wrote a book called Why We Get Fat and What to Do About It. His last book was The Case for Sugar. Well, now he's making the case for keto. Yeah, surely YouTube would not connect. I tried about 6 or 7 times to get to connect. Aaron Day has an air fryer keto cookbook. So this is also a new book. I'm going to be interviewing all these people here in the coming weeks. I always like to keep you guys on the cutting edge. And then Dr. Ben Lynch has a great book called Dirty Genes. And so all about how our genes aren't the be-all, end-all. It could be that you have some issues going on there, and he has a full panel. I'll be running that panel on myself very soon. But these are some new books that are out there, you guys. I just thought I would let you know. It is Ask Me Anything, so get your questions ready, you guys. Go ahead and write your questions down there. We have the Instagram, Twitch, and Facebook today, so go ahead and get your questions ready, and when the time comes, I will come to you. But first, I got to start with YouTube, because something happened yesterday with one of my videos on YouTube. So those of you that watch me on YouTube and you came over to one of the other devices live, or you're watching this on replay on YouTube, I got an email from YouTube yesterday, and they said that one of my videos had been removed for violating their terms of service. So I got this little screen here when I went to this video. Now, what's interesting is it wasn't the Jimmy Rants video. So the Jimmy Rants videos I do, it's the full shebang. And of course, you guys know I talk in code. I do 91 DIVOC V-word. instead of saying the real thing. And so somehow, some way, it didn't trigger them on the long form. But when I made a shortened version of my video, I'm trying to see which video, about half of healthcare workers don't want the 9-1-DIVOC V word. They sent me this email, and I printed it out. Our team has reviewed your content, and unfortunately, we think it violates our community guidelines. Thus, we have removed the following content from YouTube. And this, again, is one of my little 15-minute little tidbits. So the full shebang of my comments from the Jimmy Rants that I did is still up and not been touched. Now, maybe they'll figure it out before long, but they only touched the one that's 15 minutes long that I called half of healthcare workers don't want 9-1-DIVOC V word. So then they write, we know this might be disappointing, but it's important to us that YouTube is a safe place for all. How is it not a safe place even with that video up? Like, I've never understood this whole idea of safety. Are we trying to protect people from misinformation? But there is not anything as misinformation. There's information. And then logical thinking people can make good conclusions about what they think about that information. There isn't misinformation, but they supposedly want to keep it safe from everybody being exposed to it. If content breaks the rules, we remove it. The problem is nobody knows what the rules are. They keep moving the goalposts of what the rules are. So if you think we made a mistake, you can appeal and we'll take another look. Your content violated, listen to what I violated according to them. YouTube doesn't allow claims about 9-1-DIVOC V words that contradict expert consensus from local health authorities or the World Health Organization. So my big sin is supposedly that I made claims about 9-1-DIVOC V words that go against the expert consensus, whatever the blank that means. Is anybody else concerned that this is just the beginning? They are ramping up efforts to silence any dissident voices. I'm not okay with this, because those of you that watch me on YouTube, listen up. Because this is your first time, you're only being warned this time. But if it happens again, your channel is going to get a strike and you won't be able to do things like upload, post, or even live stream for 1 week. So I got this little nastygram email from YouTube yesterday, and guys, I think we're only seeing the beginning of massive censorship. They've been doing it all over the past year, and quite frankly, they've been doing it long before 9-1-DIVOC hit the scene. But they're really doing it now. And the climate has changed in America where this is being tolerated. This is being allowed. And so the new reality is, if suddenly you see me not on your favorite platform, don't be surprised. I know they've shadow banned me on Instagram. They've shadow banned me on Facebook. And so it's real. It's real. So far, I haven't heard any problems with Twitch. And so it might become where my primary way to record is right from Twitch, because it is hard to play by all these little games they make you play. You can't speak freely. Trust me, if Parler had a live version where you could go live on video, I would so be going live on Parler and promoting everybody to go there. That's just the stark reality of the world we're living in now, guys. So just be ready that if I'm suddenly not on YouTube or suddenly not on Instagram or Facebook, I'm going to be on Twitch. And I'm also working on other backup plans of other websites to be on, including my own. We've tried to test JimmyRants.com to see if we could handle traffic coming there to watch a live stream. We're still working on that, so just bear with me. I like being here on Instagram and on Facebook and Twitch and YouTube, but if they decide that I'm speaking untruths and that I have to be censored on YouTube, like they just did one of my posts. Totally deleted it, guys. It's off. They won't even allow it to be there, which is ironic because the full Jimmy Rant still has that same information in it. I assume if they find that one, they're going to probably ban me for a week, like they've said they would. So if you're just joining us, it is Ask Me Anything, your time, the one day of the week where I literally open the floor to you to ask any questions you want. And I've got my reaction to the 2020 dietary guidelines coming up here in just a moment. One more thing I wanted to cover before I get to that, and then before I get to the questions that came in ahead of time, and then your questions. This next one is from Virginia Tech News. Researchers find that the removal of dairy cows would have a minimal impact on greenhouse emissions. The removal of every single dairy cow from the United States would only slightly reduce greenhouse gas emissions while reducing essential nutrients. So the dairy industry in the United States is massive. It supplies dietary requirements to most of the population. This same industry also contributes about 1.58% of the country's total greenhouse emissions. A commonly suggested solution to reduce this has been to reduce or eliminate this industry altogether in favor of plant production. So no more cow's milk or cream or cheese. It's all almond and soy and God knows whatever else. So a team of researchers from West Virginia wanted to uncover what impact the cows were having on the environment. They found that the removal of dairy cows from the United States agricultural industry would only reduce greenhouse emissions by about 0.7%. But the side effect of that is you take away a huge portion of the nutritional impact for humans that live in America. There are environmental impacts associated with the production of food, period. The dairy industry does have a little bit of an environmental impact, but if you look at it in the context of the entire U.S. enterprise, it's fairly minimal. Associated with that minimal impact is very substantial provision of high quality, digestible, and well-balanced nutrition. So I love it. Like, they're underscoring, okay, all you wacko people that want to get rid of cows and get rid of meat and get rid of dairy, look at what the ramifications will be. Yeah, you slightly reduce greenhouse gases, I would say to a statistically irrelevant level. And yet, look at all that nutrition that goes out the window. No, ain't gonna happen. Ain't gonna happen. All right, guys, rant time. I could have done a whole Jimmy Rants on this, but I've done 2 or 3 other Jimmy Rants last year, all about some of the preliminary data about the 2020 dietary guidelines for Americans. And we were waiting all year long for them to approve what the final version is. Well, that approval just happened at the very end of December last year. And I'm reading from a press release from the Nutrition Coalition. This is Nina Teicholz's group, because they do a great job of kind of summarizing some of the main points. And we've talked about a lot of these things before. Newsflash, nothing much changed. Which should make you scratch your head. Why didn't much change? Especially in the year of a pandemic where we're seeing the ramifications of comorbidities impacting this virus that's out there. You would think that would have been motivation. Oh, we probably need to stop playing games with these people and start actually giving them usable information. But the headline of the press release from Nutrition Coalition, 2020 to 2025, so these are the guidelines that will be in effect for the next 5 years. Dietary guidelines not applicable for the majority of Americans. Why? Because it didn't scope for 60% of the U.S. who has at least one diet-related chronic disease. The guidelines, and we talked about this in my previous Jimmy Rants, the dietary guidelines excluded all studies looking at weight loss. How many people go on the dietary guidelines because their doctor tells them to because you need to lose weight? I think a lot of people have. Not us, because we know better now, but when doctors promote nutrition for their patients to be able to lose weight, what do they cite? The Dietary Guidelines for Americans. Well, guess what? The Dietary Guidelines Advisory Committee did not include any such data from weight loss studies. They also did not reflect any of the latest science over the past decade looking at saturated fat and how healthy it is, especially in the absence of carbohydrate. And there were also significant conflicts of interest on the expert committee that were not disclosed. I talked about this one before. There is a group that is a front group, a scientific medical front group for Coca-Cola. And over half of the members of the 2020 Dietary Guidelines Advisory Committee were on that group, that medical front group for Coca-Cola. So why are we surprised? I'm not. Unfortunately, most people say, well, the Dietary Guidelines had highly respected group of experts, all vetted out the latest science. But did they? No. Nutrition recommendations that are taught to all Americans should necessarily reflect all Americans, and these dietary guidelines clearly fail to do that. The policy is scoped for disease prevention only. Did you know that the dietary guidelines was only scoped for disease prevention, not to treat said disease? And what I want to know is, okay, if you're only going to look at preventative nutrition, then by golly, any doctor pushing this for weight loss, anybody pushing the dietary guidelines for anything but preventing disease, they're assuming you're healthy. And we know from previous studies that about 88% of the population has some level of metabolic disease, namely insulin resistance. And so if they have insulin resistance, the vast majority of the population, don't we want to create guidelines that would offer up some kind of help in dealing with that? You would think, but that's not what happened here. They didn't look at any of that science. They only looked at all the preventative measures for the diet. So the expert committee did not review any of the body of science on how to successfully treat any disease with nutrition. Not even studies about weight loss, because I know most people hear dietary guidelines from their doctor. They push it. Oh, you need to lose weight. Go do what the dietary guidelines say. They're vetted out by the science. They didn't look at weight loss studies. If they had, you guys, they would have seen great efficacy with carbohydrate restriction. But they didn't. They left that out. For the U.S. Department of Agriculture to develop a policy so narrowly focused on a small minority of Americans makes little sense, especially since these guidelines are applied to sick and well people alike. And Nutrition Coalition is right. They push this on everybody. To which the question becomes, okay, if they're only for prevention, what's the diet for treatment? The USDA is washing their hands of that one. Nope, we're not involved in the treatment of disease. We're only involved in the prevention, and our diet supposedly will do that. Now, it probably will work well for prevention, because the people that would be prevented and not already have some kind of progression of disease will be very insulin sensitive and can probably handle that diet from the dietary guidelines. But the rest of us, are we SOL? Are we supposed to figure it out on our own? They're not doing a service to Americans, and most Americans don't know it doesn't apply to them. These guidelines can be of little to no use for tens of millions of Americans who are diagnosed with chronic diet-related diseases. So for the past 40 years, the dietary guidelines have become more than just recommendations. They are the single most powerful lever influencing how America eats. A broadly influential policy is considered the gold standard, followed by most healthcare practitioners. Literally go to any doctor. Literally go to any dietitian. They're all going to promote the gospel of the dietary guidelines for Americans. Hasn't served us well. It's also followed by K through 12 educators. So if your kids go to public school, those meals they are served at breakfast and lunch, They're all predicated on the dietary guidelines. Media outlets are in bed with this as well, and the military. I've had many military wives write to me and go, what do I buy at the commissary? It's only foods that are based on the dietary guidelines. It's disgusting, you guys. The dietary guidelines also drive food choices for the $100 billion spent by the USDA on nutrition assistance programs, school lunches, feeding assistance for the elderly and women with infant and children, food for disadvantaged communities, and more. So not only is it impacting all the things above, it's directly impacting so many people that have no choice in the situation. And I've even heard moms talk about how the kids get all the things from the dietary guidelines on the plate, and that they have to put a piece of whole grain bread on there. They have to put, this, they have to put that. They have to keep saturated fat at a certain level. It's just horrible what they are doing, all under the guise of these are fully vetted out, gold standard nutritional advice, right? The populations in these USDA programs have significantly higher rates of diet-related conditions, and yet the foods delivered to them are arguably inappropriate for these diseases. Think about the poorest of the poor. And people wonder, how do poor people get so sick? Poor people get sick because they make poor quality food choices, because that's literally all that's available to them. And then on top of that, when they go to get assistance, that assistance comes in the form of the same old crappy garbage they're buying for themselves. There is evidence to show that the guidelines advise to eat 6 servings of grain a day, 3 of them refined, and up to 10% of calories as sugar will do harm to somebody who has type 2 diabetes. The USDA should at least try to do no harm. So let's take a look at what they did. The science on saturated fat was ignored. That's a big thing they did. Among the science that was excluded by the Dietary Guidelines 2020 version was the last decade of studies on saturated fat. These have, on the whole, concluded that these fats have no effect on heart disease mortality. A group of leading U.S. scientists, including former chairs of the Dietary Guidelines Advisory Committee, wrote letters to the secretaries of the USDA and HHS, as well as 56 members of Congress, and they were trying to discuss how the science has evolved, but they were completely ignored. There was also a lack of transparency on the financial conflicts of interest. So the current Dietary Guidelines Committee, Advisory Committee, here's some of the conflicts of interest that they did not disclose. Jamie Ard is the current medical director for Nestle's OptiFast weight loss program. Steve Heimsfield is the former global director of scientific affairs at the pharmaceutical company Merck. Richard Mattis is a former member of the scientific advisory board for ConAgra. Barbara Schneeman, I'll say her name right here in a minute. She was the chair of this Dietary Guidelines Committee. She's the president of the Dannon Institute, funded by Dannon, the yogurt company. And then Barbara, again, she's also a advisory board member of Monsanto. None of that was disclosed. Is that concerning that there are industry ties? So let's see. See if there's anything else in here. They excluded all clinical trials on weight loss. That's the big concern. The exclusion of the last decade of science on saturated fats, which shows there's little to no effect on cardiovascular health or total mortality. The exclusion of all science looking at low carbohydrate diets. There were more than 65 clinical trials that were offered, and they ignored them all. The continued use of an unverified and unrecognized methodology. of looking at science, the rejection of the majority of recommendations made by the National Academies of Science, Engineering, and Medicine to improve transparency. There was a $1 million price tag on that group, and they just ignored everything about it. And then the lack of a requirement for disclosure of their conflicts of interest, which we just talked about. So this is where we are, you guys. We have all of these dietary guidelines. Pretty much same old, same old. And in that same old, you guys, people keep going to continue to get sick. They're going to continue to get worse in their health, not better. How do they allow this to continue on? Like I've told you very famously, I went before the Dietary Guidelines Committee in 2010, just as a layperson. I'd been blogging for a few years, and I decided to go testify. And I testified, and these people could not have been more bored. These people were just disinterested. It was almost as if it was a foregone conclusion what they were going to decide the dietary guidelines were going to be, and science be damned. But I just hate it that the general public thinks that these things are highly vetted out, rigorously, scientifically vetted out, and they're not. They're not. And as you could see, they're not even looking at the latest science. To which I say, how do you fix this problem? I know Nina Teicholz at the Nutrition Coalition has been working on this for a little while. How do you fix this problem? Because as much as her efforts have been wonderful, and there was a lot of pressure put on the Dietary Guidelines Advisory Committee last year, the end result was the same. And so if we're going to have the same guidelines, why will we be surprised when type 2 diabetes and heart disease and obesity and all the rest just don't get better? Why wouldn't they look at people with current disease? Because COVID, if it's not shown us anything else, has shown us that we have a huge metabolic health problem that's directly tied to our nutrition. And if the nutrition gods from on high at the USDA are telling us this is the way you should eat, and in that way of eating directly impacts your health and developing chronic disease, this should be a concern of every American. So I don't know how it's going to change, guys, other than trying to get people to not pay attention, because people say, well, nobody pays attention to the guidelines. Oh, you want to bet? Like, it sets policy for so many things. Doctors recommending, dietitians recommending a diet for you to lose weight, for you to be healthy. The public schools, the military commissaries, the people that are disadvantaged on welfare, like all of this infrastructure in America is all predicated on what those guidelines say. So they matter. And I'm just sick and tired of them always being the same old, same old. And so it inspires me in my work to continue speaking up and speaking out, because a lot of you guys got out of that system. You used to be in it as well. You used to believe the guidelines. I did. As a kid in the 80s, when these things first came on the scene, I remember having to memorize that stupid pyramid, and the bottom of the pyramid, and then, you know, how much of this you can have, and that, and that, and that. And it's indoctrination. And it's still happening today. It's called the food plate now, my plate, but still it's the same principle. It's why we need to continue to speak up and speak out against these guidelines, and to share with people what the truth is. And so I'm going to keep doing that. I encourage you to do that, but it's not going to just resolve itself. And we have to stop pretending like the USDA is going to do anything but protect agriculture, which is grains and soy and all the everything that's not animal-based food, all the everything that, quite frankly, isn't real food. And we have to be the champions for real food, even if our government chooses not to. All right, that's my mini rant all about the U.S. Dietary Guidelines for 2020. And yeah, it's sad. It's sad that they chose not to change anything. Oh well, just means I'm going to have a lot of people, maybe in the coming years, that will find my message, your message, and a lot of you guys are out there helping to promote the message as well. All right, let's get to the questions that came in ahead of time. Again, if you joined us late, this is Ask Me Anything. So literally on Fridays, I open the floor to you guys to literally ask me any question you want. So keto, cholesterol, fasting, book writing, podcasting, life, whatever you want to ask about, it's open game. We're going to start here first when it's time. We'll start here first on Instagram, then over to Twitch, finally over to Facebook, YouTube. I tried so hard to get on YouTube today and it just did not want to play ball. So let's get to the questions that came in ahead of time. I always put these up the day before the Jimmy Rant. So on Thursdays, always go to my stories on my Instagram page at Jimmy Rants. Type in your question there, and it goes in the show this way. I have a CGM coming, so this is a continuous glucose monitor. I'm wondering if I should be strict keto or play around a bit to see. Well, if you've never worn one before, you've got 14 days that it's going to give you data. So I would say the first, at least 4 or 5 days, at least see where you are. At least see what you're currently doing and how it's impacting your blood sugar. Then if you want to play around with it and have little experiments, I think that's completely fine. That's the fun part about a CGM. And so those of you that don't know, you stick it in the back of your arm. I may have one. Yeah. So it's a little needle, and it shoots it into the back of your arm, and it leaves this little sensor in there. And then there, with your smartphone, you can just bloop, and get a reading of your blood sugar anytime you want. And I think at least set a baseline for what you're doing now. You don't want to start playing around until you see what your norm is. So establish the norm for at least 4 or 5 days. See how your body normally responds. And here's the fun part if you're wearing a CGM and then you have something stressful happen. Check your blood sugar, because you're going to be surprised that when you check your blood sugar in the midst of being kind of upset and worked up, it's going to be higher. You haven't eaten anything at all. You could have been fasting that day, and you test your blood sugar when you're upset, it's going to be higher. So I think that would be, don't purposely make yourself upset, but if you happen to get upset, I happened to be wearing one, this was about 1.5 years, 2 years ago, I happened to be wearing a CGM, and I got really upsetting news on a phone call. And I remember during the phone call, I was bloop, bloop, and I could see my blood sugar go up, not just 5-10 points. It went up 40 points in the midst of that phone call. Had not eaten at all that day, and it went up 40 points within a short period of time too, something like 10 minutes. It went up 40 points. So it's powerful. So definitely get that baseline, see where your normal is, and then when you start playing around, you know what the changes are. But thank you for that question. Next question. Where do you get inspiration from? I get inspired by a lot of things. I don't have a guru that inspires me. I don't have any set thing that inspires me. Quite frankly, I have set up my life so that anything that feeds into me is an inspiration. So if I'm watching something that is uplifting, that inspires me. If I'm reading something that feeds me in some way, that inspires me. In a negative way, sometimes I'm inspired. When I see things that are an outrage, and I wrote about it this week, this old Cosmopolitan magazine, and how everybody was just oh my God, what a horrible message to tell fat people that they can be healthy. Oh my God, it's so horrible. I got inspired to write another vantage point. And I suppose it's because I'm a content provider and I make a lot of content. Those of you that watch me on Jimmy Rants, I have 4 podcasts that I do a week. I write a bunch of posts all over social media. I'm a content guy. And so inspiration for me is not hard. My problem is I get so many ideas, I don't know where to put them all. So inspiration comes pretty easy, but pretty much life itself is where I get most of my inspiration. But thank you for that question. What resources would you recommend for someone wanting to learn how to think more critically? Oh, if I could just do a magic wand and get people to think more critically, it would be so wonderful. I think people have completely given up on thinking for themselves. For us to expect them to think critically, to go deeper in their questioning, I think is unreasonable now, unfortunately, because it's not been taught. In schools, kids are being taught to regurgitate, not to logically think. And so why would we think when they become adults that they would suddenly know how to think critically, think logically? So it's why I push that boundary in my own work, where I say ask questions and ask them in a non-threatening way. In fact, I just did a post right before I came on Jimmy Rants all about the 9-1 DIVOC V word and Dr. Fauci making the statement that we don't even know if it's going to prevent you from being infected. And so I said, can we have a discussion about this? Can we think critically, think logically, if this is true, that even with the shot in your arm, you still may get infected with 9-1 DIVOC? What's the point of taking the V word? So it's an honest question, and it's meant to incite this critical thinking you're talking about. I think it's just a matter of a choice of deciding to question. And people think, oh, questioning means you're being rude to the authorities. No, it means we're holding the authorities accountable. I'm not one of these people who just blindly believes anything I'm told. And I tell people who watch me, don't believe anything I say. Listen to what I say, and if something piques your interest, go research it on your own. But I don't want you following anything I say, even when I write books. When I wrote Keto Clarity, I was like, all right, we got principles in here that hopefully will help you, but go learn on your own. The point of the books, the point of everything that I do in my work, I can't speak for other people, but in my work, it's always to get you to think. And I always frame my posts, I even frame these Jimmy Rants in such a way to get you to think. And so it's a lost art, unfortunately, but it is something you do have to actively want to work on. When are you going to update us on why you're sleeping so great? Well, I've been working on it a little while. I've been doing little things here and there. Maybe I should do a Jimmy Rants where I talk about some of the little tricks, because I do post my data every day. And I generally get about 3 to 4, sometimes a little bit more than that, combined REM and deep sleep. And that's really, really good sleep, you guys. So yeah, maybe I'll do a whole Jimmy Rants about my routine of things that I've done over the past few years, but I've certainly dialed it in. I feel like I've talked about it before. One of the things that I did add recently was sometimes allowing myself a little bit, not a lot, a little bit of extra carbohydrate in that last meal of the day. Now, you know from yesterday's Jimmy Rants that meal timing will also impact your sleep, which then impacts your body fat. I did a whole Jimmy Rants on a study about that yesterday. And so in that last meal of the day, at least 4 hours before you go to bed, maybe have a little extra carbohydrate at that point. And for whatever reason, that does something to help you sleep deeper. Now, that's not the main thing. I think getting the sunshine on your body and setting that circadian rhythm at various times during the day. I've been doing a lot of red light therapy, so I've got one of those Juve lights. I've been basically letting my naked body get red light all over it. And infrared sauna and just relaxation techniques. Those things all play a big role. I also think honoring your bedtime. So for me, and those of you, I get some people, friends of mine especially, that make fun of me. Last night I went to a comedy club in Charlotte to see a friend of mine, Dave Martin, do stand-up. And so his part of the show didn't even start till 8:30. I'm in bed at like 7:30 a lot. So my friends were like, wait, you're awake? What? So last night, notwithstanding, most of the night I'm in bed somewhere around 7, 8 o'clock. And that's a consistent time every single night after night after night. And then it's a similar wake up time as well. I generally go to bed about 7:30, generally get up somewhere around 2:30 to 3. And that's kind of my cycle. And some days, if I'm not feeling well, I will go ahead and stay in the bed a little bit longer. That's rare because I do like getting up early and hitting the ground running on my work, but it's a process. And so if you struggle with sleep, just keep doing all the things. Don't overwhelm yourself with everything at once. Try something new. Just add to it. I did do a Jimmy Rants about sleep not that long ago. So definitely go to YouTube, type in Jimmy Rants sleep, and you'll find that episode where we talked about a lot of the tricks that you can do. This was a good question. When will you be bringing back the Patreon early shows? So you'll notice I have not been pushing the Patreon. And quite frankly, I pushed it hard in 2020. This has been a tough financial year. A lot of the companies that usually sponsor my work have become very skittish with all the uncertainty in the world today. I definitely don't blame them for that. So I had tried to come up with a different way to do some money. If you go to jimmyrants.com, the Patreon link is still there, and I would definitely love your support. But one of the things that I did was I offered a perk to the people who are supporters. And one of those perks is to get early access to my podcast episodes, which I now have a brand new podcast called One Step Deeper Podcast that airs on Mondays. Then Tuesday is the Best of Jimmy Rants. Wednesday is a new Living La Vida Low Carb Show interview. And Thursday is Real Talk podcast interview. So all of those are in video form. So to answer your question, yes, we will be providing a link where you can watch those shows early. It's just been crazy at the beginning of the year here. I apologize. We have not gotten those up for you just yet, but stay tuned. But yeah, if you want to support me, please go over to the Patreon link over at jimmyrants.com. I was a little disappointed it wasn't more, but I get it. People are struggling. It's been a tough year for just about everybody. But thank you for that comment. Lots out there on NAFLD and keto. Non-alcoholic fatty liver disease is what NAFLD means, but nothing about rehabbing alcohol to a liver, any studies. As far as I know regarding keto and alcoholic fatty liver disease, I don't think it's going to help near like non-alcoholic. So that's why they always make the distinction of non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, because if it helped with a fatty liver from alcohol, then they would just say fatty liver. So the reason they use NAFLD is to make the distinction, because alcohol does a different number on the liver and the detox that it does there than the carbs and the fructose and the sugar and all the everything that you would eat in your diet. So as far as I know, there's no studies that I know of where a ketogenic diet can help with alcoholic fatty liver disease. But thank you for that question. I saved the best for last, you guys. This question was the funniest question I think I've ever gotten in the history of Jimmy Rants Ask Me Anything, and I really don't know how to respond. Can pooping be triggered by peeing? Ew. What? Like, first of all, I'm not a doctor. I don't play one on the internet. Can poop. So the only thing I could do is offer up personal experience. What? Can pooping be triggered by peeing? Well, I guess if you need to evacuate your bowels and you happen to be on the pot peeing and you push hard enough to pee that it could... I don't know. I don't know. But see, this is just proof positive, guys. I literally say, ask me anything. That's an anything. Anybody want to top that weirdo question? We're going to get that off the screen because that's very weird. All right, it is, thank God, your turn to ask me anything. We're going to go here first to Instagram, then over to Twitch, finally over to Facebook. Sorry, YouTube, not here today. I couldn't get you to go. Maybe another day. JimmyRants.com is the website. I'm so sick and tired of all this. They treat us like children that can't make our own decisions. Oh, talking about the censorship. Yeah, if you missed the beginning, one of my videos got censored. And so this is the message they put on the screen. This video has been removed for violating YouTube's terms of service. And apparently the term of service that I violated was I went against the World Health Organization and local health authorities with expert consensus. Because we know science is all about consensus, right? No, science is not about consensus. If you hear somebody say, well, we should all agree on the consensus of the science, there is no consensus in science. Science is fluid. Science is always saying, okay, we come up with a conclusion. Now let's challenge that conclusion. That's science. They're redefining what science is. Gnome is the man. The answer is to host your own platform website. Let's veto these censorship crazy platforms. Well, I do have my own website. It's JimmyRants.com. And we're working on getting the mechanism to go live from there. My only problem, if I go live from JimmyRants.com, I might be able to do Twitch, and while I still have these other formats, but what happens if YouTube censors me, Instagram censors me, Facebook censors me? My only choices are live from JimmyRants.com and live from Twitch, unless there's other ones that pop up. It's going to be a problem, you guys, moving forward. So just be prepared that one day you may wake up and all of your favorite people are gone. And I have a feeling this is going to be accelerated very, very quickly. Just trying to warn you now so that when it happens, you're not surprised. Marcus says, I think YouTube will not be happy until they show cat videos and legacy news media. Yeah, they only want to show those things. And it's unfortunate because speech does not harm. Even the most vile speech in the world that I would disagree with vehemently, we used to say, you know what? I may not agree with you, but I will fight to the death for your right to say what you believe. That used to be a common kind of refrain about Americanism. That's gone. You're not allowed to say what you want to say anymore. And I don't know how they're going to hold back all the Supreme Court First Amendment violations that people are going to bring based on all that's happening on social media. I know. These are all private companies. If you don't want to use Instagram's platform, you don't want to use Facebook or YouTube, you get off their platform. There's private business and blah, 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 blah. I get it. But this whole Section 230 thing that protects them from being held liable, yeah, that kind of made it where they were supposed to make it more open for debate. Well, debate's gone. I guess those of us that push that line of debate are just going to have to keep pushing until we're pushed off. Because I'm not going to shut up. Like, I have things to say in that realm. So about 12% of Americans could be healthy on these recommendations. Yes, Joshua. So the 12% of the population, according to that study that was done recently, I've told you about a few times, don't have insulin resistance. They have very good insulin sensitivity. And people with really good insulin sensitivity tend to handle carbohydrates better than those with insulin resistance. So I do think the dietary guidelines would work for that 12%. Over the years, I've talked to many doctors and they say, yeah, for some reason, we don't know why, but about 1 in 5, which is 20% of the population, can do well on either a low-fat diet or a low-carb diet. But there's a great majority of people that can only do well on a lower carb type of diet. Amanda says, and meatless Mondays at school. Oh, that meatless Mondays is the biggest crap I've ever seen in my life. Especially in low-income neighborhoods, the school food may be the best meal of their day. Yeah, sadly, and it's not great. George Carlin said it best. They don't give a fig about you. Yes, Cariana. I actually watched a George Carlin stand-up last weekend on Amazon Prime Video. Man, that guy was so far ahead of his time of knowing what we're going through right now. My goodness. Yeah, he knew. He knew long ago. I don't know how he knew, but he knew. Yes, always get a baseline to judge against. Yes, that is a good policy. The only stupid question is the one you don't ask. Be respectful when you ask. Exactly. I love that phrase, by the way. The only stupid question is the one you don't ask. People are like, can I ask you a question? It's stupid. I'm like, ask. I don't care. I actually had a really good friend today that was like, I don't want to bug you, but I have a question. It's for a friend of mine. Duh. Like, if somebody is making themselves available to answer questions, then avail yourself of that. Now, don't abuse it, but avail yourself of that. If they're offering to help, that's why I open the floor on Fridays to you guys here. I want you to know if you've got questions, I'm happy to answer. If I don't know the answer, I know a lot of people that probably can help out with the answer. The Ketogenic Pharmacist, I really appreciate your feedback about Cosmo magazine. I had an opinion, and after reading what you had to say, I saw a different opinion, and it opened my mind. Thank you for that. I just feel like there is a certain kind of Me Too-ism that goes on out there, that when one influencer decides to write an opinion about some subject, then you get a lot of kind of echo chamber Me Too-ism of, oh yeah, and I was seeing that with the Cosmopolitan magazine and all the, oh my gosh, can't believe they're promoting this lady around as a success story. She's healthy, she's not healthy. And I'm thinking, how do you know she's not healthy? Yes, I know, she's got weight on the body. Guess what? So does Jimmy. Jimmy has weight. Somebody just today was like, you're hiding from your viewers. You're only showing yourself from the chest up. You're hiding from your viewers, and you're lying to them by not telling them that you've gained weight. I've been very open about the weight gain. The last year of my life, year and a half, has been some of the most tumultuous times that I've had since I was abused as a teenager. I'm just going to be blunt with you right here. It's been hard. And the people in my life that care about me, they know what I'm going through. And it's tough. And I wouldn't wish that on anybody. I don't like the weight gain, but I can't help it. I think this lady was saying, well, it's obvious you don't eat keto anymore and da-da-da-da-da. And I'm going, what makes you think it's obvious I don't eat keto? Well, you've gained weight. Okay, you don't think you can gain weight? Do you think weight gain is only about your nutrition? Have you not heard of the impact stress can have on the body? Have you not heard of insulin resistance making it a lot more challenging? Like, I'm so over, and I'm tired of having these discussions. I'm so over people judging a book by its cover and always assuming the worst just by what people see. That poor lady on the front cover of Cosmopolitan magazine, she probably doesn't give two flying fucks about what you think about her. But what's to say she wasn't 600 pounds at one time in her life? And now she's 250. Is she still big? Yeah. Is she healthier than she was? You bet. So how do we know what her health is? How do we jump to the conclusion of a visual telling you anything about someone's health? I'm over that, guys. I have gotten some of the most vile, ugly comments over the years, and I'm just a guy out here trying to educate and encourage people. And I'm tough. I've been at this a very long time for a reason. That's stuff you can't really take personally. And anybody aspiring to kind of be bigger, just know it comes with the hate. You don't have to have extra weight on your body. They'll come up with something. I've told this story before. Maria Emmerich gets a lot of negativity because she's too thin and because she has black babies. You're always going to have people who are going to rise up against you for whatever their reasons. And the only way you stick around and keep your sanity is to know who you are and stay true to who you are. So yes, Jimmy Moore has weight on his body. Newsflash, in case you didn't know that. Didn't know I had to vocalize that out loud, but I think it's pretty obvious. But I feel good. I'm energetic. I'm on here every single day. It's not affecting my brain health. I just get frustrated sometimes, guys, because I think of all the barrage of things that I get and other people that may not be as adept at dealing with this may crumble under that. And these are good people. I think about Bob Briggs, Butter Bob. The guy had to get out of it because he couldn't stand the mental anguish people were throwing at him. And it's bad. This is the kind of stuff that is the cancer of any good movement. You scare all the good people away, how is anybody supposed to get help? Because all that's left at that point is shysters who don't give one rip about you personally. And if there's one thing you know about me, I care about you. I really do. Right now, I'm making no money doing all the content I'm doing. And yet I do it anyway. Why? Number one, I love the craft of doing the show. But I love you guys. And I always will. It's what's always driven me. Money has never driven me in my career. Money has come with it because I've been successful at writing a few books here and there. But I didn't sign up for this to, quote, get rich. But there are people who do this. In fact, I have an interview with a medical doctor right as soon as Jimmy Rants is over, about 1:30 today. And she wanted to talk about this. All the shysters, and she's a keto doctor, all the shysters in the keto and carnivore community who it's obvious they're only in it for the money. And she's right. There are a lot of people that this is like a flash in the pan. Let's go get all the money we can get and get out and screw those people. And then you're going to be left in the wake of that. I'm going to still be here. I'm not going anywhere. Even if I still have extra weight on my body. My REM and deep sleep are usually around 50% of my total sleep, says Nam is the man. Yeah, I shoot for at bare minimum 50%. I have gotten as high as 70% with my REM and deep. I average probably somewhere around 60 to 65%, which I like that, especially if I get a lot of deep, like 2-3 hours of deep, it's pretty nice. You can always feel kind of this heaviness in the morning. Blue blockers 4 hours before bed is a major game changer. Yeah, I used to wear the blue blockers, but I find I don't need them anymore because I get enough of the circadian rhythm from the light getting in my eyes throughout the day that I don't have to put on the blockers at night. Dr. Mercola's website has been deemed a threat to national security, says Amanda. Yeah, Dr. Mercola is one of those ones that's been out there for many years now. I'm going to tell you, Dr. Mercola, he does put some really weird stuff out there sometimes. So he's always pushed the envelope, but he's been around as long as I've been around. So Yeah, he was one of the ones that was the victim of the algorithm change with Google last year. They changed the algorithm, and he lost about 90% of his audience because most of the people that found him through some Google search. So yeah, I'm not surprised. Jacqueline says health means nothing to big food corporations. It's all about the money. You're right. Kimberly says there is a thing as skinny fat and skinny unhealthy. Exactly. Kimberly, that was the thing I was thinking about when I saw them all saying this is healthy and it's an obese woman. I was thinking if they had a stick figure woman on the front, or even just normal sized woman, this is healthy, nobody would bat an eye at it. But you don't know. You just don't know. That's what makes this discussion so frustrating, is you can't make a judgment just based on what you see with the book cover. But people do, unfortunately. I'll always be here for you. Thank you, Holly. Love you, Jimmy. Thank you, Kelly. You're so sincerely genuine. Appreciate that. I just try to be real, guys. We got so much fakery in the world that when you are real, you stick out. You're a threat, quite frankly. Because when you're real, you kind of shine a light on other people's fakery. Not purposely, not trying to call anybody out, but when you are real and vulnerable, other people feel threatened by that because they want to keep up the mirage that everything's okay in their life. And I think it's okay to tell people and everything's not cool. Like, I've been very open about how stressed out I've been for the past year and a half over this incident that's happening in my life that's still not over. It's still ongoing. And I don't know when it's going to be over. So that's the thing. It's kind of this constant, so the way I've dealt with it is, okay, I'm having to go through it, so there's no sense in being upset about it. And it will be over sooner than later. So that's kind of the way I'm framing it in my mind to try to deal with it. But it's been tough. It's been tough. All right, thank you, Instagram. Let's pop over to Twitch. Looks like I got a bunch of comments today. Thank you guys for engaging today here on Twitch. I switched to Twitch because I don't have to keep the app open, so it's more convenient. Cool. Yeah, you guys that want to follow me on Twitch, I'm growing my followers over on Twitch. So if you go download the Twitch app and then look up the username Jimmy Moore Rants. They didn't have Jimmy Rants. Somebody apparently stole Jimmy Rants from me, but Jimmy Moore Rants. You can follow me over there, and it's a really nice format. I like the way the comments. It's a lot easier to see the comments on that one than any of the other formats, although Facebook's pretty easy to follow as well. But thank you for that, Lauren. Oops. Are you more concerned, Grizz wants to know, for 2021 as opposed to how 2020 turned out? I don't know about concerned. I think everybody put eggs in the basket of, we just got to get out of 2020 and all of our life will be better in 2021. I think that's a bad message. 2021, nothing has changed. Just because we physically had a calendar change doesn't mean the circumstances that we're living in have changed. I think on a personal level, you get to decide how your 2021 is going to be. I'm tired of people saying, well, this year sucked. Well, did you make it suck? Because if you made it suck, sure, it sucked. But if you have a positive attitude and you seek to do things to lift yourself up, that change of perspective can make 2021 better. Now, as far as societally and what's happening in the world right now, it's a lot of chaos. It's a lot of unknown. It's a lot of we don't know where we're going kind of thing. And so that you can't control, but you can control how you respond to it. So that would be my answer to that question. I didn't see you live on YouTube. Yes, Saya, the reason is YouTube would not connect today, so I apologize for that. This is why I have so many ways for you to watch, because if I didn't, and I only went live on YouTube, there would be no show right now. Anna says, if they censor the President of the United States, what chance do we have? Yeah, I think the fact that they have pretty much on Facebook and Twitter given Donald Trump the middle finger means they could do it to any of us. And it's not even political. It's just, I think if you say something that goes against the mainstream narrative of whatever, they're going to pretty much say, okay, you can't be a part of our game anymore. What would be the first thing you would recommend to get better sleep? Well, number one, if the very first thing I would do is go to bed sooner. I think so many people push their bedtime later and later and later. Oh, I have a TV show I want to watch. I want to watch a movie. I want to go out with friends. You have all these priorities about your life that don't focus on sleep. And I think if you focus on sleep, and how you do that is go to bed earlier, then it's going to benefit you in a lot of ways. But there's a lot of things you probably should do, but trying to go to sleep a little earlier than you normally would is a really, really good practice to do. All right, so let's delete a message because it was weird. Get the weird messages on Twitch. All right, thank you, Twitch. Lots of questions today. Appreciate you guys engaging over there. Facebook, I have not forgotten about you. You're up. Going to come to your questions now, see what you have to say. Happy Friday. Judy says, not being political, but if the president can be banned. Yeah, we're talking about that. Berkeley says, I've been trying to eat meat heavy keto. I had an endoscopy and ruled out issues, but I get a lot of pain when I eat meat. Any suggestions? Well, I'm not sure what kind of pain. Is it bloating pain? Is it stomach pain? What is the pain you're getting, Berkeley? But maybe back off on the amount that you're eating, at least as you ease into it. Because if you're not used to eating a lot of protein all in a meal, your body may be having digestive issues. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't do it, but it could be that there is some kind of digestive concern going on. So maybe having some digestive enzymes that would help to break down the fats a little bit possibly would be helpful. And then just chewing slower and longer. Like, I don't know what the pain is. I don't know what your routine is or how much food you're eating, but that would definitely help. Back when I first found out that everything was backwards and that it was driven by subsidies and slime balls, I literally broke down in tears. That's when I started my journey on my own, regardless of what they had to say. Mandy, you're not alone. I think most of us that have come to this low carb, real food movement message, we got there because we did our own research. And we had to, because what had been told to us was a bald-faced lie. And we learned the hard way through many years of heartache and pain, through many years of going to doctors and them not being any help. We finally had to figure out that we need to figure this out on our own. It's one of the things that when I started my work way back in 2005 was when I started blogging, that there was such a flock to my work right away. When I started the Living La Vida Low Carb blog and then a year later started the podcast, Living La Vida Low Carb Show, it was so new. It was so, people were like almost starving for somebody to speak up on their behalf. And I've always tried to do that, by the way, as an empowered patient, as someone, I don't have doctor. It's funny because sometimes people will be like, well, in fact, I did a book signing in Austin, Texas 2 years ago. And on the marquee, I was doing a co-book signing with Dr. Ken Berry. And it said, Dr. Ken Berry and Dr. Jimmy Moore. And I was like, no, not a doctor. Everybody got a kick out of it because they know I'm not a doctor. But I don't feel like I need that. I've always been the everyman. I've always tried to relate to people in that way. That's kind of just the branding of who I am. because you relate to me, because I'm you. I'm just like you. I'm trying to live life like you, and have questions like you. Now I have a little more knowledge because I've been able to talk to some really smart people, interview them, and assimilate that information, and then regurgitate it to you guys, either through books or through Jimmy Rants or my podcast or whatever. But yeah, when you learn and you have your eyes opened, you can't help but be disappointed in all the years that you wasted on all that bad information. All right, thank you, Facebook. Let's see. I hope it ends soon for you. Thank you, Holly. It will. I've been dealing with it for a long time, and so a few more months probably is not that long in the grand scheme of things. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for being here for today's Ask Me Anything segment of Jimmy Rants. And that's it for this episode of Jimmy Rants. JimmyRants.com is the website. And as always, you can engage live in the content. Come follow me right here over on Instagram. I'm at Jimmy Rants. So go follow me. We are here Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern Time. We also simulcast live on Twitch and Facebook and usually YouTube. YouTube didn't work today. So if you're watching this on the replay, you're probably watching either on IGTV over at the Jimmy Rants Instagram page or on YouTube or at JimmyRants.com, the official website for this show. All right, guys, I'm out of here. Have a great, great weekend. I will be lining up a great set of things to talk about for next week's show. I have so many things I want to talk about on Jimmy Rants. So hold on to your hats. I hope you're enjoying the episodes, and we will be back again on Monday at 11 a.m. We'll see you then.